All right, I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Anna Petrov, and I'm one of the computational chemists at POLARIS Quantum Biotech. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're looking forward to putting on this webinar. We're going to be talking about our drug discovery platform that's powered by a quantum computer. We call this approach quantum-aided drug design, or QUAD, so we call it QUAD for short. For the last 4 years, we've been working with partners and clients to accelerate their drug discovery timeline. This is our series of speakers. So I'm going to start by doing a demonstration of QUAD. I'll start the job, and while it's running, our CEO, Shahar Keenan, will talk about why QUAD uses quantum computing to build libraries of preclinical drug candidates. And then our principal engineer, Maurice Benson, will talk about how exactly QUAD is using the quantum computer to do these calculations. And then after they speak, I'll review the results of the demo, and we'll have time for question and answer. So as Will said, if you would like to submit a question, you can do so through the Zoom chat or through the QR code, which I'll show again in a few minutes. So our Director of Communications, Will Simpson, will be fielding your questions, and our team will provide answers towards the end of this presentation. So let's look at the overview of quantum-aided drug design. So the input for QUAD is a PDB of your protein with a template molecule in the binding pocket. And we pair this information with a massive chemical space of fragments. And these fragments can come from either de novo or on-demand chemical libraries. So QUAD uses the quantum computer to find combinations of fragments that complement your binding pocket and are readily synthesizable. And this final optimized set that it returns, it's going to meet your project-specific criteria, such as being bioavailable, readily synthesizable, crossing the blood-brain barrier, for example, or any specific design goals that you have. The output is a custom library of candidate ligands in 3D conformations in your binding pocket. So you can jumpstart your drug discovery project by investigating these candidates with your traditional computer-aided drug design methods, or by going ahead and synthesizing them and testing their activity in the wet lab. So what kinds of ligand templates can you use? So the input for QUAD is a PDB and usually a ligand in the pocket, but we can work with many different kinds of ligands in the pocket, such as small molecules, peptides that have unnatural side chains. If you have a macrocycle, we can work with those. Peptidomimetics. We can also work with tool compounds that do not have drug-like properties. And we also have an experimental mode that does not require a ligand in the pocket, and this mode will be available this fall. It's a part of a DARPA contract that we received last year. Whatever ligand you want to start with, you can use that ligand to shape the direction of the library that QUAD generates. So here's an example of a template ligand. The red highlights are bonds that you can break within synthetic accessibility rules. The way to get the greatest diversity in your output library is to let QUAD break on these bonds in many ways. That's going to generate many fragmentation schemes, and it's going to give you the broadest access to chemical spaces. So maybe you have a reference molecule that checks a lot of boxes for your design project, but you need to get away from its scaffold or a problematic group. You can do that by setting QUAD to hold the groups that you like constant. I've indicated those in gray here, and then just generate novel options for only the part that you indicate. So let's look at the QUAD dashboard. Here's a screenshot of the QUAD dashboard, and let's break it down. So these are the library generation projects that we've done recently that I've outlined in the blue dashed box. Over here, you can see how many runs each scientist in your group has available. Over here, you can see your run details. And over here, this is where you can see your finished runs. If you want to check out our training materials, you can access them here. We have some manuals and some videos, and we're updating them throughout. If you need a hand, you can also contact us through the support button, and we can help you with any technical issues. And depending on how you want to license QUAD, we may be working with you on a more one-on-one basis with our chemists, and Shahar is going to talk about licensing later today. So how is QUAD using the ligand to generate the library? First, QUAD uses the PDB that you submitted to generate new ligand fragment options that complement the binding pocket. And then Quad uses the quantum computer. And what it's doing is it's finding the top combinations of fragments for your pocket. Next, Quad calculates the properties of the whole molecules identified by the quantum computer. And then Quad filters down the results so that only the ones that meet your project goals are going to be included in your final library. Finally, Quad does a gentle minimization of the ligand in the pocket. And that's going to give you a library of several thousand ligands in 3D conformations in your pocket. And several thousands is relative towards like maybe you have a smaller ligand or a larger ligand. Maybe you do one quad run, maybe you do many. And we'll talk about how that works momentarily. So as a part of the webinar, we asked attendees to send us PDBs that we could use for the demo. And we went with 1x70. So thanks everybody for sending in great options. And we'll reach out to the group that submitted this one for a courtesy consultation with our chemists. If you'd like credit for this PDB during the webinar, please message Will and we'll announce the name of your group. So I've already downloaded the structure. So let's open Quad and we'll run it. I've got it on this tab right here. So this is the Quad dashboard, and you get to this by pressing Start New Job. The project name is located here. The run description that we're going to use is just demo. The protein ligand PDB that we're using is 1x70, and this is exactly as it appears from the PDB. I didn't add hydrogens or do anything. It's exactly as it appears. And then I uploaded it. The next thing that we need to do here is to choose the molecule to fragment. This is helpful because you may have many different ligands, or maybe one crystallized a little bit better than a different one. You can select it here. So we're going to go with this one. So on this page, we can see our run description, which is demo, our PDB here, and the file molecules. So this is going to be which template ligand you want to fragment is right here. And it also appears in this window over here. So this is the ligand that appears in the PDB that was submitted by the group for this demo. So there are a few things that you need to do at this point. So first of all, you need to consider your project objectives. Best in class is going to return candidate fragments that are based mostly on the starting ligand. It's a great option for exploring similar binding modes while still having a good diversity in output. You can also go with first-in-class mode, and this is going to return candidate fragments based on the starting ligand, but it's going to take in more information about the surrounding protein pocket so that it can explore it to a greater extent. This is a powerful tool for exploring new binding modes. And also standard over here is a balance between first-in-class and best-in-class. And I'm going to choose, let's see, best-in-class for this one so that we can cast a good net within this area, because I'm also going to choose this fragment library here. The fragment library is going to specify what chemical search space you want to go with. So if you want to synthesize de novo molecules, you can choose de novo for maximum novelty. But if you contract with a specific provider, you can search only within the chemical space that they use. So for example, we've included Liverpool Chirochem here. And so if I click this button, we're going to be doing a best-in-class search, but only within the LCC fragment library space. So you can control what areas of chemical spaces you're going for. I'm going to choose de novo here. So the next thing that you need to do is come over here and look at the fragmentation options. If you look here on these red highlighted bonds, these are the sessile bonds where you can break on. So maybe it's very important for your group to break right here, just for example. When we choose 3430 right here and then select it over here, Quad is going to be sure to return schemes that break at this point. So let's choose fragment molecule and we'll see what we get here. So here we can see that Quad cut it, the sessile bond indicated, but it found some other options as well. We can also look over here at show advanced mode. If there's a particular part that you're wanting to keep, so if I choose R3, so each of these ones is an R group, I will be holding this group constant. So when we submit this fragmentation scheme for Quad run, this group is going to appear in all the output, whereas this group and this group are going to be varied. How many groups should we go with? I recommend looking at between 3 and 6 R groups per project. And I'll select them here. And as I select them, they appear down here. So I'll choose these ones, 1, 2, and 3, for 3 quad runs on this one ligand. And then we'll come over here, I'll press this button. And then here we can see our 3 fragmentation schemes, and then we've got a summary of what's going to happen. So our objective is best in class, our fragment library is de novo, we've indicated scaffold hopping, and then we're going to be submitting these 3 runs. And then I'll come down here and press confirm. So while Quad is generating a library of candidates for this pocket, and you can see it says job submitted successfully here, I'm going to turn it over to our CEO, Shahar Keenan, to talk about why we're using Quad for our white papers. And then we'll also hear from Maurice Benson to talk about how exactly the quantum computer is doing these calculations. And then we'll circle back to me and I'll show you the results of the demo. So this PDB takes closer to 30 minutes to run. Usually jobs take between 20 and 30 minutes, often exactly 26, but this one takes just a little bit longer. So we went ahead and ran this job ahead of time so that we have no slowdowns, but we can still see where it is as we proceed. So Shahar, I'll pass to you.
Thanks, Anna. So while Quad is generating the library, let's discuss why we have developed Quad. I'm a computational chemist by training, and over my career, I've worked with academic and industry groups to find novel molecules to treat diseases. However, traditional drug discovery methods have limitations. I don't have to tell most people in this room, you know those limitations. The 2 main problems that we're facing are the long development timelines and the limit to narrow chemical space. For example, wet lab high-throughput screening are limited to how many synthesized molecules are on the shelf, ready to be assayed. Those high-throughput screening are typically limited to a few 100,000 molecules, so that's a really small chemical space. Of course, you can think about computational approaches like docking or any of those methods. Docking uses brute force, and that limits the library size, how many molecules you can look at. You shouldn't need a supercomputer to search even a small library of 1 billion molecules, and you probably noticed that I'm thinking that 1 billion molecules is a small library, just because the capabilities of Quad is for so many more molecules to look at. What about AI machine learning? This is all the rage right now. The issue with AI machine learning is it needs a large training set, which is sometimes difficult to get in our field. Data sets of a couple of thousands of molecules are considered large in our field, but they are not very large if we think about training data for machine learning. It is limiting the results to molecules that are similar to what the algorithm was trained on, also called applicability domain. The main issue with machine learning, I find, is that it is a black box. And black box made it very hard to explain values. So when we design a new molecule and we get a number, we want to understand why we got that number. Machine learning simply gives you a number. We want to know, because this is design, we want to be able to design better molecules. So after looking at all of those methods and understanding their limitations, what did we do in Polaris? I teamed up with Bill Shipman, Polaris CTO, and he's a software engineer. And he was also, similarly to me, ready to break out of the traditional methods in drug design and computing. And we founded Polaris Quantum Biotech and assembled an amazing team of people. You can see us here in the picture. I'm sure you recognize Anna and Maurice, who will speak later, and Will, who's monitoring this group. And half of the people that we have there are computational chemists, half of them are developers. I also already mentioned Maurice Benson. He's an expert in AI and lead our quantum computing effort, and you will hear quite a lot from him later. And the system we made is quantum-aided drug design, QUAD. And these platforms allow us to use quantum annealers to build libraries of molecular candidates for particular protein pocket, as Anna showed. The time it takes to do that is in minutes. This approach is totally unique and completely different from traditional methods. when we built this, one of the first things we've done is, of course, look for case studies. And I'm going to show you 2 case studies that we've done today. So let's look at our first case study. And this case study is for a protein that we've known before. It's called NNMT. And the reason, of course, we use it is because we've worked with it before. And we had a library that was previously designed by hand of a couple of thousands of molecules, a bit less than 3,000. We took Quad, and NNMT, submitted NNMT binder to Quad, and looked at the results. The first thing we've done is compare Quad to decoys. We ran Quad, we ran a bunch of decoys, and we wanted to see, are the molecules that we create are better than decoys? And you can see on the left-hand side, the decoys are in gray, Quad molecules are in red, and the control, these are molecules from the literature, are in blue. And you can see that Quad molecules are way better than decoys. Now, remember, we had a library of about 3,000 molecules that was designed by hand, by a chemist. Is Quad better than what people do by hand? Quad is faster, 2 days compared to about 2 months of designing a library by hand. Now, when we run the results of Quad versus the results of what the chemist designed, we can see that Quad designed better molecules. The reason for that, because chemist thinks in boxes and Quad thinks outside of the box. Quad finds fragments that maybe chemists will not think are going to be a good fit there, but they are a good fit. So you can see here that Quad molecules are better than what you can design by hand, better than designed by hands, and of course, much faster to get this. And again, the white paper is called NNMT. You can download it from the website. Now, a question that we should always ask is, how do these molecules look when you put them in the pocket of the protein? And what we're showing you here is on the left-hand side, the NNMT molecule inside the pocket. This is from the PDB. And on the right-hand side is one of the molecules that Quad designed. And you can see that the molecules that Quad designed bind in exactly the same way as the molecules from the PDB, although the chemistry is completely different. So we do find novel molecules. They bind the same way as the original PDB. Now, the next question is, okay, we can predict new molecules, but can we look at history and find known hits using Quad? In order to test this, we look at sorafenib, which is a known MAPK inhibitor for cancer. Sorafenib is part of an interesting story. Bayer decided in 1994 to look for anti-cancer, specifically kidney cancer, thyroid cancer, liver cancer, late stages of cancer. At that time, they understood the biology. They chose MAPK as the target. This target is well understood. They had available assays. And one of the first large modern high-throughput screening campaign was done there in 95. They tested over 200,000 molecules. They chose the best one and done about 1,000 molecules synthesized by hand using SAR. And 3 years later, chose sorafenib and nominated it as a preclinical candidate. And also wrote the IP on that clinical candidate. Just to finish the story, at 2005, the FDA approved it, sorafenib. It's probably one of the fastest approval. Now, it took Bayer 11 years, 5 of them just in preclinical work. How long did it take Quad? So we took sorafenib, add it to inside MAPK, ran Quad, and then started to look at what came out. And that was an interesting search, just because we needed to find molecules that are similar to what's in the literature, so not novel, which is what we usually look for. But here you can see 3 patents that Quad found these molecules, and then we went and found them in the literature in 3 different patents of these groups that are part of what Quad finds. So if Bayer had Quad, they maybe have found, besides these 3 molecules that broke their IP mode, several other molecules that we have identified that may be as relevant for them as these patents breaking. You can use Quad to build that, both to build your IP moat, but also look what is coming to the market in a second place. I'm going to transition here from talking about Quad to talking about quantum computing. I'll let Maurice Benson, who is our principal engineer, leads our work on quantum computers, and I'll pass it to him to describe the work that we're doing on quantum computers. Maurice?
Thanks, Shahar. You know, the Quad system is taking advantage of some of the most advanced quantum computing resources the world has to offer to revolutionize drug discovery. And it seems like quantum computing is always a technology that's just on the horizon, even though rarely a week goes by without an announcement from some quantum researcher about the expansion of the number of qubits, advancements in error correction, or a revised expectation of when these systems will really be ready for mainstream utilization. Optimists are predicting a quantum revolution in the next 2 years. On the other side, there are the doubters pushing back, saying that quantum systems will not be able to achieve any sort of true quantum advantage for maybe 10 to 50 years, if at all. So we're not going to claim today that we're gaining any sort of quantum advantage, but we have translated our chemistry into quantum algorithms and are able to take advantage of quantum utility today. As you can see in the image, there are a few different QCs that are on the market right now, but let's talk a bit about how these quantum computers work. Quantum gate computers will one day be able to solve many different types of problems. They can do that because they require control and manipulation of the quantum state, which is represented in this image as moving platforms being used to direct a marble to a particular outcome. On the other hand, quantum annealing computers do not require this level of control and direction and use a physical process to find low energy states, as represented here by a ball rolling to a ground state. Quantum gate computers are currently in development. There's a lot of hype and there's a lot of research dollars go into there, but they're still just kind of not quite ready for prime time. But quantum annealing computers are being used today to solve real-world problems. A recent Ars Technica article came out that discussed what POLARISqb and others are doing with D-Wave's quantum annealer. So let's take a look at how others are finding quantum utility with quantum annealers. SavantX has utilized quantum annealing computers to increase the efficiency at the Los Angeles Pier 300 by over 50% in the first year of the application. And also, Quantum South has used the same type of computers to optimize loading cargo onto aircraft. While there are still hurdles to the road of quantum advantage, quantum utility is helping solve real-world problems today. Now let's talk a little more about how PQB takes advantage of quantum annealers. Using the PDB that we're currently running in this demo, I'll give an overview of how Quad works. The backbone of our approach is a drug discovery technique known as fragment-based drug design. This innovative method leverages the concept of piecing together small molecular fragments to craft potential drug compounds. In Quad, we start with the molecule that you can see on the left-hand side and separate it into sections called fragments. These fragments are then used as references to search for similar fragments in our database. These similar fragments are then combined to generate potential drug leads. Trying all those different combinations can lead to an effect called combinatorial explosion, and it takes a long time for classical computers to generate those solutions. So instead, we turn our problem into a constraint satisfaction problem where we promote those combinations that contain a set of particular properties that we are looking for. For drug candidate molecules, we're interested in a specific set of criteria, such as maintaining the molecular weight within a certain range, ensuring fragments have a certain shape, making sure fragments can actually be synthesized together, and then we rank those solutions by a specific metric. We use pharmacophore score, or the estimated biological interaction between the molecule and the protein. Our goal is to construct a set of solutions that not only meet these constraints, but also have a high pharmacophore score. This leads us to develop what is called a Pareto front of solutions, or a set of molecules with those desired properties. In this graph, we can see all the possible solutions in a small quad fragment library. Notice there are many more combinations that are not synthesizable than are. For quad, we're only interested in less than 5% of fragment combinations that are synthesizable and have a high pharmacophore score. This ranking of multiple potential drugs in the solution space is computationally difficult. While many algorithms excel at finding a single near optimal result, forming this ranked Pareto front is hard for classical computers. And just for kicks, on our production, we use libraries that are over 10 times the size visualized. And this is where we can start to lean into what quantum annealers do well. To take advantage of the quantum annealer, we transform our constraint satisfaction into a quadratic unconstrained binary optimization, or QUBO model. By expressing each fragment as a series of interaction scores, we can then map those interactions to a quantum computer. One of the easiest interactions to discuss is the one-hot constraint. We know our molecule can only have one fragment per each R group. So we can penalize interactions of fragments with similar R groups, while we can incentivize interactions of fragments with different R groups. The image above shows the complexity of fragments interactions, and we can take those interaction scores and map them to D-Wave's architecture. Here, I'm showing D-Wave's Chimera architecture, but we actually use their newer Pegasus architecture in production, and we're leaning into investigating their newest Zephyr architecture. Now, this architecture maps each node into a qubit, and that interaction score can be thought of as a potential of that qubit being activated or not. Then, through some complex physics, the quantum computer returns solutions with the best interaction scores. This quantum approach can yield thousands of near-optimal solutions in just about a second. This way of thinking is really different than traditional programming, so it takes time and patience to understand this phenomenon. And this type of problem formulation creates a large barrier to entry and makes it very expensive for companies to spin up their own quantum departments. So next, let's talk about where we're actually seeing our quantum utility. To illustrate the potential of quantum computing in fragment-based drug design, let's discuss a recent study we conducted comparing the quantum annealer with a classical greedy search algorithm. Using a well-known protein, JAK2, as our test subject, we ran both algorithms for the same duration, sampling the same library over 100 times. We then took the best scores from these runs for comparison. The results were quite revealing. Even though the quantum annealer and the classical greedy search were given the equal computing time, the D-Wave Advantage system returned more diverse results with significantly higher pharmacophore scores. In this case, the quantum utility we see is the quality of solutions we're getting out of our problem. Now, we're currently using the quantum annealing in production, but we're also exploring variational quantum algorithms, and particularly the quantum approximate optimization algorithm, or QAOA algorithm, in our work for DARPA. Our work with the QAOA solution demonstrates the flexibility of our quad system, as it expands our capabilities to work with a variety of quantum computing infrastructures. We're also working with the great folks at Blue Qubit to explore solving our problems with GPUs, and also investigating QAra's quantum offering to see how we can take advantage of neutral atom quantum computing. And closing out this section, a quad is a platform that takes advantage of the most advanced technologies to solve chemistry optimization problems. It is a flexible, scalable tool that is able to search an absolutely massive chemical space in minutes by taking advantage of quantum algorithms. This is a power we believe will only grow as companies advance quantum hardware and software and make more powerful machines with more qubits available to researchers. I believe Anna is ready to share some of our results from our quad system now, so I'll pass the mic to Anna.
Thanks, Maurice. Yeah, so let's take a look at the output libraries from the demo. So here we're back on the quad dashboard, and you can access these results by going to View Job Output right here. This is the job run that I did just prior to the meeting. There are two ways to examine the result space. Here's full molecules. We can also look at the fragments that went towards them. And then from there, we can look at different ways of visualizing the data. So here I have the drug-like property distributions in the input molecules versus the ones that pass our drug-like filters. There are other ways of visualizing this as well. So you can dig into these visualizations and others, or you can come over here and click on View Summary, and it'll give you a PDF that summarizes your quad run. So here's an example of the PDFs that you can get, and it just helps you keep track of which jobs you've run and what your findings have been for each. So here's our fragmentation scheme, and then here's the building and pruning of the chemical space. You can see how many combinations are going into it. how long it took on the quantum computer, property calculations, and then you can get some details on what fragments are going into the final library. So let's go back here. We'll go back to this icon here, and we'll click on download results. And this is what I usually do is I go straight to downloading these results so that I can get an SVL file that has the novel ligands that are in the pocket. What this is this is one quad job, but you usually do many of them, and then you aggregate them together for one really big library, and that's what I'll show you here. So this SVL file shows the candidate molecules that are right here in this column, and they're in 3D conformations, and that's shown in this GIF of the results. So this gray ligand here is the reference molecule, and then the green ligands are some of the quad candidates. And so what I usually do is start by looking at the 3D ligands that are in the pocket in a program like Mo, which is what I've represented here, but it's just one way to visualize the results. There are many other kinds of software that can do this, such as PyMol, which is free. So in addition to the molecules in the pocket, we also provide descriptors shown here, as well as energy calculations, including interaction energy and strain energy. So let's compare this library to other quad libraries. So here are the controls that we used for this demo that I showed earlier, where we chose best in class and we chose de novo. Earlier, I also ran a job that was first in class and de novo on the same PDB. So we can look at two different modes for how quad is searching this chemical space. So on the left, we've got the best-in-class library, and this includes about 900 candidates, and they're all close variations on the theme represented in the original reference molecule. And over here on the right, we have the first-in-class library, which includes about 1,000 candidates, and it shows a broad distribution of possible ligands. So you can see the distribution here. There aren't clusters like you see in best-in-class mode, where when you look on this diagonal, you can see the clusters along the way. So you're definitely getting different kinds of results depending on what mode you're choosing. So we can also see this diversity in the 3D structures when we look at them in the pocket. So here we have two GIFs of the quad output libraries. This one's best-in-class, this one's first-in-class. And as you can see from the images, the best-in-class candidate molecules in green are close variations compared to the original, but the first-in-class ones that are shown here in magenta, they really explore the pocket, and that's what you would expect on the heat map shown. This is the heat map showing the diverse ligands here, versus this is the heat map showing best-in-class, where you get the clusters. So even just in this little GIF, you can really see, like, if you look at this area of the pocket, like, it's just doing minor changes to this ligand here. Whereas over here in first-in-class mode, it is truly exploring the pocket. You'll get some groups that come down here or down here, up here. It explores this space a little bit differently. How do these modes compare when you examine them by protein-ligand interaction fingerprint? So these figures include about 200 PIFs in these libraries. And so the x-axis, these are the pocket residues. And each of these horizontal bars here represents one of the ligands that came from the quad library. So on the left in the green boxes, you can see that these PLIFs are very similar as you go down the columns here. They're very regular across many of the ligands. Whereas over here on first-in-class, there's not the same, like you get some that are interacting with the pocket residues in the same way. But if you look over here, like it's just exploring different ways of interacting with these pocket residues. So what are the next steps with these libraries? We recommend developing your library by running quad in iterations. And here are a couple examples. Maybe you've got a tool compound in the pocket and you run a first-in-class job to really explore the options. If you find one of the options that you really like, you can take that option, save it as a PDB with the protein, so the new first-in-class candidate in your existing PDB, and then you can submit that structure to Quad for a new best-in-class run. And that's going to give you a new library of similar variants to the one that you liked from the first-in-class run. Another example is if you find a candidate molecule in a quad library that looks close, but it isn't quite right for your project goals, what you can do is just replace the part that you don't like with something that would work for you, and then use that as your starting structure and do a quad run on that. So we think of it as like putting it into the back of the top of the hopper and then getting those new libraries over and over. So you don't need to do that too many times, but it helps to really engage with your project to understand it using quad as a tool. Quad is very much an additional tool for finding new candidate molecules. And I like to think of it as having like a very fast medicinal chemist makes several thousand solutions, but just in a few minutes. But that said, it still takes an expert eye to see which of these ligands in the libraries are the ones that you really want to go with. So quad returns these libraries, but your experts still determine the direction of the project. So the libraries are strong, as Shahar has shown. We can find known positives when we run this through. We're finding similar groups. Like the libraries are good, but there's still so many of them with 4,000. Like you really need your experts to dig in to find the top ones. The example where Shahar described, we had the most promising candidates were in that library, but we really had to work for a little while to find them. So once you have a library that you're happy with, there are several directions that you can take your research with traditional CAD methods. So one thing that you could do is you could minimize the pocket and the ligand, and that's going to give you a more fine detail of interactions and energies between your ligand and your pocket. Another option is you can generate a library of decoy molecules and then test those decoys against your quad library. That'll give you an ROC curve, and it can give you a measure of confidence when you're searching for your top candidates. It's also often a good idea to run some high accuracy simulations on your top candidates, like QMMN, for example. The clients that we work with usually go straight to synthesizing them and testing them in the wet lab. So we've been working with them for several years on this method. And I'll pass back to Shahar to tell you about how we can help make the most of these quad library results.
Thank you, Anna. So as you guys have seen today, Quad is a robust, user-friendly platform that allows chemistry researchers to examine a massive chemical space at speeds that were previously impossible. The platform is intuitive, and you get fast and diverse results with high accuracy. It is built for molecular chemistry teams. There are many advantages to Quad, and you can generate libraries of candidate molecules that are novel, synthesizable, biodiverse, and of course available for further CAD and wet lab testing. Today, Quad accomplished this in minutes using the latest in quantum technology, as we have shown today, and it does not require training sets like AI. Quad is hardware agnostic. It's standalone in the cloud with simple integration to current chemistry software. And lastly, Quad is ready to evolve with the changing landscape of quantum computers and continue to take advantage of the most advanced hardware on the planet as the capabilities of quantum computing continue to evolve and advance. Are you guys interested in finding out more on how to use Quad? Anna has demonstrated the ease of using Quad license. If you want to use Quad within your group with total privacy measures, we can give you direct access through our Quad license service. If you want us to run Quad for you, we can talk about that. We can do very fast, rapid projects where we create the library for you, or we can do premium work where we look at the molecules afterwards with high accuracy calculations. If we want to really describe chemical space, the size of chemical space possible is 10 to the power of 60. We're now at 10 to the power of 30 and growing all the time. The way to do it is on a quantum system. You cannot use a non-quantum system to look at those problems, at those size of problems. The quantum system is available, is working, it's extremely fast. That's why we are using quantum computers, because it is the system that we're using is available for us today and solve problems today. That's quantum utility for us today. And again, I want everybody here to see that it's working, that it's running today. And I'll bring it back to Anna so she can show you the progress that the system made.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so here are each of the steps. All three jobs are that we give them all code names. So this one's Arwin 43, 42, 41. Those are the ones that are demo. You can see that they're demo here in this run details section, and all three of them made it through ligand geometry in the pocket. So those results are complete.